Let's start for that. When you just start to life is unpredictable. One moment, you're living an ordinary life, and the next, an accident changes everything. You wake up as someone entirely different, with abilities you never had before. This was the fate of people like Ben McMahon, who woke up speaking fluent Mandarin, thought that it was at vlog Sileo, and Daniel Tammet, who developed extraordinary mathematical skills. Kingdom Shoemaker. Surrounded. Join us in this video as we explore the fascinating stories of 20 individuals who developed amazing abilities after an accident. How is that? Number 20, Scott Melee. A few years back, Scott Melee's life took a dramatic turn after a terrible car accident. Another vehicle crashed into him at 70 miles per hour, leaving Scott with injuries that could have easily ended his story right then. But instead of seeing it as the end, Scott now calls that day his new beginning. The accident left him with a serious brain injury, and life wasn't easy afterward. Anxiety and depression hit him hard. He often felt like he wasn't living his own life, as if he was stuck in someone else's body. It was a dark and confusing time. Then, one ordinary day, something extraordinary happened. While taking his kids to a craft store, Scott felt an unexpected pull to try painting. Up until that moment, art had never been a part of his life. He had no experience or interest in it. But as soon as he picked up a brush, something clicked. It was like a switch had been turned on, and he realized he was naturally gifted. Doctors later told him he had a rare condition called atypical acquired savant syndrome. This happens when a brain injury unlocks incredible abilities a person didn't have before. For Scott, it was as if life had given him a fresh start at 38 years old. Today, Scott is a successful artist in Wilmington. Painting has become his passion, giving him a new sense of purpose and joy. While one of his works shows a girl trapped underwater, Scott no longer feels stuck. He has found freedom and a reason to love life again. But what if the very thing meant to break you became the key to unlocking something extraordinary? Scott Melee's unexpected journey into art was just one astonishing example. For the next person, however, the aftermath of his accident rewrote the language of his life, quite literally. Number 19, Ben McMahon. When Ben McMahon was 22, his life took a shocking turn. After surviving a serious car accident, he spent over a week in a coma. When he finally woke up, something unbelievable happened. He could no longer speak English. Instead, every word that came out of his mouth was in Mandarin. The first thing Ben said was to a nurse. "Excuse me, I feel really sore here," he told her. But it wasn't in English. It was perfect Mandarin. Confused and unsure what was happening, he asked for a pen and paper. When he started writing, the words he put down read, "I love my mom. I love my dad. I will recover." His family was stunned. Their son, who had grown up speaking English, couldn't remember it anymore. Doctors were equally amazed. Ben had studied Mandarin during his school years in Melbourne, but he was far from fluent. So how did this happen? For a few days, Ben only spoke Mandarin. Slowly, his memory of English started to return. Still, the ability to speak Mandarin stayed with him, and it completely transformed his life. Since then, Ben has embraced this gift. He moved to Shanghai, where he studied e-commerce at a local university. His fluency also opened up unexpected opportunities, including hosting a Mandarin television show. What started as a life-threatening accident turned into a story that changed Ben's life forever. The next story reveals the startling possibilities of an act of violence as it transforms an ordinary mind into one capable of perceiving the universe's hidden patterns. Number 18, Jason Paget. Back in September 2002, Jason Paget's world flipped upside down in the most unexpected way. It all started on a Friday night at a party, where two strangers decided to jump him out of nowhere. They came at him from behind, landing a hard punch to the back of his head. Jason hit the ground, unconscious. But they weren't done. They kept pounding on him, all for a jacket that wasn't even worth much. Once they got what they wanted, they took off. leaving Jason bruised and broken. That night, Jason was rushed to the hospital. After some quick treatment, he was sent home, but by morning, everything felt different. When he turned on the bathroom tap, what should have been a normal stream of water looked strange. He saw crisp, straight lines crisscrossing through the flow. Then he looked at his hand, and it was like he was watching it move in slow motion. Jason was freaked out, and who wouldn't be? As the days passed, Jason realized his brain wasn't working the way it used to, but not in a bad way. The attack had rewired him, unlocking something extraordinary. Suddenly, Jason could see geometric patterns everywhere. Shapes and lines appeared in places he'd never noticed before. He discovered he could draw fractals, those endlessly repeating designs found in nature and math, with stunning accuracy. Before this, Jason had no interest in math or science. He'd dropped out of community college and wasn't really going anywhere in life. But now he saw the world like a walking math equation. Sunlight bouncing off his car formed arcs that represented pi. Leaves on trees seemed to lay out Pythagoras' theorem right in front of him. What started as a violent and senseless attack ended up changing Jason's life in ways no one could have predicted. While Jason's brain injury unlocked a hidden genius, the next story shows a person's body bending the rules of anatomy in ways you have to see to believe. Number 17. Daniel Browning Smith. Daniel Browning Smith, widely known as the Rubber Boy, has redefined what it means to be flexible, turning his unique ability into something truly extraordinary. His journey began at just 4 years old, when he accidentally discovered his gift. What started as a childhood curiosity turned into a lifelong passion, one that has left audiences all over the world speechless. Daniel's flexibility isn't ordinary, it's next level. Unlike most contortionists who have limitations, Daniel can twist and turn in ways that seem impossible. Picture this, bending backward until your head touches the seat of your pants. He can do that effortlessly. He can also dislocate both his arms and legs at will and rotate his torso 180 degrees, performing stunts that most people can't even imagine attempting. His nickname, the Rubber Boy, came from one of his most mind-blowing feats, squeezing himself into a box weighing just 18 pounds, with dimensions of 13.5 inches by 16 inches by 19.5 inches. To put that in perspective, it's smaller than the average TV. But that's just one of many achievements. Daniel holds several Guinness World Records, including one for sliding his entire body through a tennis racket without strings by dislocating his shoulders. He's also known for performing unique gymnastics routines and handstands that are completely his own. Daniel's talents don't stop at contortion. He's an actor, a stuntman, a comedian, and even a sports entertainer. His astonishing range of motion comes from a rare condition called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which gives him an almost superhuman level of flexibility. This condition, while rare, has allowed him to turn a natural anomaly into a career that captivates millions. Watching Daniel perform is like witnessing a living illusion. Whether he's squeezing into impossibly small spaces or performing stunts that challenge physics itself, Daniel's talents are nothing short of extraordinary. Moving on the other side of the world, a young boy claims a shocking encounter gave him powers, just like a scene from a superhero story. Number 16. Nikolai Kryagliachenko. Nikolai Kryagliachenko, a young boy from Russia, says he has developed magnetic abilities. It all began after he leaned against a broken lamppost and got shocked by electricity. The next day, something strange happened. Coins started sticking to his body. While eating breakfast, he accidentally dropped his spoon, and it stuck to his chest too. Since then, Nikolai says metal objects seem to cling to him like a magnet. Nikolai, who loves Marvel comics and the character Magneto, even jokes about becoming a superhero. But his powers aren't just about metal. He once noticed a glass of water moving toward him all on its own. This has made Nikolai a popular figure at school. His classmates are eager to see his magnetic tricks. However, not everyone believes in Nikolai's powers. Dr. Roy, a specialist in tiny living things, microbial biotechnology, says that electricity can't make a human body magnetic. According to Dr. Roy, it's impossible for Nikolai to really have these powers. He thinks maybe Nikolai has eaten something unusual, Or there could be something stuck to his skin that people can't easily notice. Nikolai's story is definitely interesting, but Dr. Roy warns people not to try anything like this at home. The truth behind his magnetic ability might not be what it seems. Meanwhile, across the globe, another mind-bending tale unfolds. A man wakes from a coma fluent in a foreign language and unsure of his own identity. Number 15. Rory Curtis. Rory Curtis's story is truly one of a kind, mixing elements of brain injury, memory, and identity shifts. At just 22 years old, he was involved in a terrible van accident. He was left with serious injuries, including a broken elbow, a shattered hip, and damage to his brain. Doctors placed Rory in a coma for 1 week. When he finally woke up, the world around him felt unfamiliar. When Rory regained consciousness, he began speaking French fluently. This shocked everyone, as he had never been good at French before. His parents, both confused and worried, explained that while Rory had studied French in school, he had always struggled with it. Later, Rory's father did some digging and found that the Curtis family had roots in Normandy, France. This led some people to think that maybe Rory's brain had unlocked some deep, hidden family memories, allowing him to speak French without realizing how. However, this ability didn't last long. As Rory's English skills came back, his French started to fade. But the surprises didn't end there. Rory soon believed that he was only 10 years old. He kept asking his mother about an old family dog that had died many years ago. To make things even stranger, Rory became convinced that he was someone else. A man named Matthew. Rory couldn't explain why he felt this way, but strongly believed that Matthew was his real identity. One day, while looking in the mirror, he didn't recognize his own reflection. He expected to see Matthew's face, not his own. Rory Curtis's story shows how unpredictable the human mind can be. But the next story takes unpredictability to a whole new level. Not with the mind, but with the stomach. Number 14. Michel Lotito. Michel Lotito, famously known as Mr. Eat-All, had an ability that set him apart from the rest. While he wasn't a household name like celebrities or sports stars, his extraordinary skill of consuming things that most people would never even consider eating earned him a unique kind of fame. His bizarre journey began when he was just 9 years old. Unlike other kids, Lotito developed a taste for non-edible objects, such as metal and glass. According to the story, this all started when a glass he was drinking from accidentally shattered. Instead of discarding the pieces, Lotito did something unbelievable. He began chewing on them. Soon doctors and specialists took an interest in his strange eating habits. After running tests, they discovered that Lotito had a condition called pica, which causes a person to crave non-food items. However, what made Lotito truly remarkable was the fact that his body could handle these dangerous objects. His stomach lining and intestines were much thicker than normal, allowing him to safely consume sharp or harmful materials without suffering any injuries. To make the process easier on his body, he would cut larger metal objects into smaller chunks and lubricate his throat with mineral oil before swallowing them. Lotito's daily diet included about 2 pounds of metal. Some of the items he managed to eat were bicycles, television sets, beds, shopping carts, a computer, chandeliers, and even a coffin. But perhaps his most astonishing feat was when he took on the challenge of consuming an entire airplane. Over the course of 2 years, Lotito ate a Cessna 50 airplane, breaking it down piece by piece until he had consumed the whole thing. Sadly, Michael Lotito passed away at the age of 57. Despite his death, he left behind a truly one-of-a-kind legacy as the man who could eat the unimaginable. Lotito's unusual talent amazed the world, but another story, born from a near-fatal accident, would change the way we see motion forever. Number 13. Edward Muybridge. In the summer of 1860, Edward Muybridge found himself on a coach journey through northeastern Texas. What started as a routine trip quickly turned into a nightmare. The horses pulling the coach became spooked, bolting down a dangerous mountain road. The coach lost control, crashing into a tree and sending Muybridge flying through the air. He slammed his head against a boulder, leaving him unconscious and severely injured. It took 9 days before he regained consciousness in a hospital, his body battered and broken. The accident had left its mark. He now suffered from double vision, regular seizures, and had lost his senses of hearing, smell, and taste. But the most significant changes weren't physical. They were in his behavior. Before the crash, Muybridge was known as a cautious, friendly, and reliable man. But after the accident, everything changed. He became moody, unpredictable, and developed a strange attraction to risky and unusual activities. Once he was well enough to leave the hospital, he set sail for England, where his creative side truly blossomed. He turned to photography and quickly made a name for himself, gaining recognition as one of the greatest photographers of all time. But it wasn't just his photography skills that made him famous. An unexpected challenge from a friend set the stage for his most groundbreaking achievement. This friend, a wealthy railroad tycoon, had a theory about horses. He believed that when horses gallop, all four hooves leave the ground at once. Muybridge was skeptical, so he